Hello, thanks for joining me today for this overview of ZTEdge, the industry's first comprehensive zero trust security solution designed specifically to meet the unique requirements of mid-sized enterprises and small businesses, delivered to the market via certified MSSP delivery partners of the Zero Trust Edge team. Before we go into the solution, let's just sort of set context, sort of the new normal that all of us are living in. This distributed workplace, which I believe will be with us from here on out. In this environment, users, data, apps, as we all know, they can be anywhere. Users typically now outside of the office, although starting to head back in, which is great. So with this distributed workplace, the traditional perimeter-based approach to security has become obsolete. It's not just obsolete, it's complex. So trying to stitch these on-premises systems together to work, especially when users' apps and data are no longer inside of an office, is very challenging. It's become expensive. You're trying to move traffic around between different locations to scan it and screen it with on-premise security gear over expensive communication channels. Often hear about MPLS backhaul fees. That gets expensive in this new environment. These systems just don't work as effectively as everyone anticipated. That's why we see the headlines around ransomware, et cetera. Vulnerabilities are finding a way into the new normal. And finally, it's difficult for users. Things have gotten quite complex. Security is a hassle for users. They look for workarounds because it starts to impact their productivity. So with this as the environment, I think there's a realization by many organizations that they need to rethink what they're doing for security. So as organizations think about this next generation architecture for their security, it becomes pretty apparent that the cloud is the obvious place to deploy your security stack, your security platform. Why? Because it has the flexibility to be able to enforce policy at the edge where your users, your applications, your data, where they intersect. That's where the cloud can be right there at the point of interaction to ensure that policy is being enforced and that you have the visibility to what's going on as users interact with resources. The core of this platform needs to be identity, the ability to authorize a user, authenticate a device, and then allow them to get access to only the limited set of resources and data that they should have to be able to accomplish their job is the key to enforcing what's called zero trust security. Least privilege is also a term you'll hear. From the end user perspective, security needs to be transparent, going on behind the scenes, being effective, but not causing them to lose any productivity. Their jobs are hard enough. More and more is being asked of our end users, so they shouldn't have to deal with the hassles, quote unquote, of security. From the IT perspective, security in this stack needs to be extremely simple. So anything that can reduce complexity is important, especially for mid-sized enterprises, which we'll talk about in a moment. And they need to be able to, simply activate it, scale it up and down, set policy, change it over time. And then finally, and this goes to the next slide as well, where we talk a bit about the challenges for mid-sized enterprises. It needs to be affordable, regardless of actually your size. The security needs to become more affordable in the licensing of it, but also then in the management, the cost of it over time. But let's talk a bit about mid-sized enterprises in particular and the challenges that they face. And this is from some research that Gartner has put out, but there's additional studies that support these ideas as well, which is that mid-sized enterprises and small businesses, so let's maybe talk about organizations between 100 employees and 1,000, they're really struggling with the security solutions that are available on the market. They find them to be too complex, they're expensive, ineffective because they're not being implemented properly inside of their organizations, either because of budget or bench strength, subject matter expertise, et cetera. The reality is that mid-sized enterprises, they're trying to deal with solutions that are force-fit into their market segment. They've been designed for global 2000 organizations, but these large security vendors, they sort of try to jam it down into the mid-sized segment and say, hey, here it is. And as we all know, it's great. A lot of these solutions, fantastic. They work for global 2000 organizations because those organizations have big budgets, lots of people, subject matter expertise, consultants, et cetera, that help them figure out how to make it work. the same luxuries don't exist in organizations that are mid-sized small businesses. And that's where there's an opportunity to deliver a zero trust platform that is designed specifically around these needs for mid-sized enterprises, reducing complexity, affordable, comprehensive in its nature, but really designed for the realities of the situation that mid-sized enterprises and small businesses find themselves in. And that's why we got together and we formed a team to develop the Zero Trust Edge or ZTEdge solution. So the rest of this presentation, I'll give a summary overview of the platform. And of course, on the website, www.zerotrustedge.com, you can see a demonstration and go into a lot more detail. So let's talk about ZTEdge. So ZTEdge, as I just mentioned, designed specifically for mid-sized enterprises, small businesses, sort of in that 100 user to 1,000 user level. The core design principles of the platform, as you'll see in the demonstrations, is to reduce complexity while providing a comprehensive set of zero trust security controls. Designed for those of you that are familiar with the Zero Trust Extended Ecosystem or ZTX model from Dr. Chase Cunningham, who actually is part of the Zero Trust Edge team. He put it out when he was at Forrester Research. The platform is designed to provide controls, zero trust controls in the areas of people, devices, apps, and networks. So as you go through the capabilities, and we touch on them here, series of controls that allow you to enforce zero trust policies in the areas of people, devices, apps, and networks. It's all delivered on an enterprise class cloud infrastructure. We'll touch a bit on that. And here's the key part for mid-sized enterprises. So it's comprehensive, again, in the set of capabilities. It's reducing complexity. So we designed it with simplicity at its core. We also designed it to be quite affordable. So approximately half the cost of competitive alternatives for similar sets of capabilities. So I'm going to repeat that again because it's very important. Approximately half the cost of competitive alternatives. So a real win for mid-sized enterprises that have, budget limitations that are very real. So from more of a marketecture perspective, and this is the image on the left-hand side of this slide, your users along the bottom, whether they're in the branch, office, or the HQ location, they're on the go, they're working from their home office, regardless of where they are, they can connect into the Zero Trust Edge cloud platform, and security policies, access, threat prevention will be enforced regardless of where the user is trying to get to. So they could be going to a data center that has an application. They could be going to a cloud location like Amazon or Azure, could be going out to the web, to go to a website, et cetera. Regardless of where that traffic is going, policies will be enforced. The capability set on the right-hand side, you'll see that there's a very rich set of capabilities Zero Trust Edge has inside the platform for access security and threat prevention, data compliance. So we won't go into all of them in this presentation. Again, there's more information on the website, but the idea of a comprehensive set of controls for mid-sized enterprises is what the design principle of the platform was, and we've delivered it. Speaking of delivery, the capability set and ZTEdge is delivered through a certified set of MSSP partners. And the latest set of those is up on the Zero Trust Edge website. But this is a group that's expanding continually. And these are folks that are specifically trained and certified on the ZTEdge platform with the ability and focus of delivering security controls, capabilities, services into the mid-sized enterprise segment. So I'm not going to dive down into all the capabilities, but I did want to walk through some of the key use cases that mid-sized enterprises are using Zero Trust Edge to support. I mentioned earlier the importance of identity, it being the core of a modern security platform. And we have identity and access management built into the Zero Trust Edge platform. So rather than making the enterprise, the organization go out and source a separate identity solution from somebody like an Okta or a Ping, we decided to actually build it into the platform. That's another key sort of affordability benefit of this solution, is that identity and access management is not a separate fee that you need to pay some other vendor for. We have that in the solution. So we have passwordless or password-based identity and access management. We also have multi-factor authentication built directly in. So this serves as the core identity component of the platform. So as part of the other controls, identity is often a piece of the equation, no surprise. But you can also use it as the central identity database for your organization. So even used outside of the ZTEdge platform, this slice or this blade can be used as your identity broker inside of your organization. Secure web and internet access. We all know that the majority of threats, we see the ransomware headlines all the time coming in from phishing and the internet and the web, are coming from the World Wide Web and the internet. So this is a critical set of capabilities that ZTEdge excels at. So the ability to use a technology called remote browser isolation to protect your users and devices, along with a secure web gateway that's built in from risky websites, phishing attempts, etc., is a key threat prevention capability that is, again, core to Zero Trust Edge. It also includes the ability not just for to stop threats that as your users are going to websites, but also if they choose to download something from the web or they open an email attachment. We have a capability called CDR, content disarm and reconstruction, that is part of the platform that sanitizes documents before they get to your devices, or attachments before they get to your devices. So key pieces of technology there to prevent web-based threats, phishing-based threats from impacting your organization. Cloud applications, SaaS applications, there's a set of controls that are Cloud Access Security Broker or CASB types of controls. When you use Zero Trust Edge as an example, you get a dedicated range of IP addresses. Those can be used when you're using applications like Office 365 or Salesforce.com to restrict access based on IP ranges. Many cloud platforms, you lose the ability to enforce IP-based controls. When I say cloud security platforms, you lose the ability to enforce IP-based controls when you're accessing applications like Office 365 or Salesforce. You don't have that issue with Zero Trust Edge. We give you a dedicated range of IP addresses so you can ensure that only your users that are coming through the Zero Trust Edge platform can access your SaaS applications. So think about the power of that for a moment. If somebody was to get their hands on one of your users' Office 365 credentials, they wouldn't be able to access that Office 365 account because they would not be coming through the Zero Trust Edge platform, right? So basically, it eliminates the risk associated with Office 365 credential theft in that example. That's a real powerful benefit to organizations that know that their SaaS applications are being targeted by cyber criminals. We also have the ability in the platform to limit certain behaviors for users or groups of users within SaaS applications in terms of data sharing and certain activities inside of the SaaS applications. Another key area that is part of Zero Trust is the idea of Zero Trust network access. So this is the ability to use a technology called ZTNA to connect a remote user to an application. Application can be in the cloud or on-premise, but basically replacing a VPN type function with a much more secure, simple alternative that eliminates some of the vulnerabilities that we all see in the headlines around VPNs that are sort of giving a network level access to a connection, and because that connection is at the network level, exposes organizations and their networks and the data applications, et cetera, to cyber threats. That is taken care of with ZTNA. ZTNA establishes a one-to-one connection between a user and just that application. When the session is done, the connection is terminated. So eliminates a lot of the vulnerabilities and the threats associated with use of VPN technology. That is part of the platform. For traditional networks, your LAN, we have the ability to enforce micro-segmented access controls. So this is going to help eliminate the movement of threats, ransomware inside of an organization. If something was to get into your network, the ability to actually micro-segment the network so that, quote unquote, the blast radius of any sort of issue would be dramatically reduced is a key part of a Zero Trust framework or mindset. So the ability to control lateral movement using micro-segmentation techniques, it is part of the platform. And a key zero trust control for your network. Speaking of network, we have the ability, given built-in technology in the platform, IPS, IDS technology, cloud firewall technology, to block intrusion attempts and also give you very granular visibility to what's going on in your network. So your user activity, understand what endpoints might be impacted by a potential threat, and then take action on that, remediate action to ensure that your network is secure. Again, part of the platform. And then lastly, SD-WAN. So we talked about a lot of the security controls, but sometimes, the base connectivity is a need as well. And we have the ability to provide branch to branch, user to internet connectivity all over a built-in SD-WAN capability. And I mentioned earlier in the discussion, one of the issues with legacy approaches is the backhauling of traffic over MPLS circuits. So with ZTEdge, all of that expense and complexity goes away. Don't need to have those MPLS circuits to backhaul traffic. What you have now is a direct-to-net security framework where security policy is enforced as your users are trying to connect to the cloud and the internet. So don't need all that backhauling. And then also, we do realize you need to connect locations often. So that's why we built SD-WAN as an option into the platform. All of this is provisioned on the ZTEdge global cloud. I won't go into a lot of detail here. There's more on the website, but I'll just call out a couple things. 5 nines availability. So this is a global enterprise class cloud platform built to be super performant. So less than 0.05 milliseconds of latency. So won't be observable to your users. And a lot of redundancy and scaling built into the infrastructure, both within locations and across locations in our POPs. So that's about as much as I'll go into on this slide, but again, a lot more on the website. And powering a lot of the decision-making inside of the platform is the Zero Trust Threat Intelligence Network. And we are part of the Cyber Threat Alliance, where there's over 30 organizations, or approximately 30 organizations at this point, sharing cyber intel, threat information, all of that together with intel threat intelligence from the global Zero Trust Edge user community, all comes into our platform, normalized, and creating risk scores, risk assessments on activities, locations that people are going to, et cetera, to inform the security policies of the platform. So again, more on the website on this, but I wanted to highlight the richness of the threat intelligence network that's powering Zero Trust Edge. The ZTEdge packages, there's 3 core packages, and then there's different a la carte options, but just to highlight the 3 core packages, a set of zero trust controls for web security, so we call that ZTEdge Web. And you see there's quite a long list of capabilities that are part of the package, and these support the use cases that I mentioned on the earlier slide. Then we have a second package that's Zero Trust Edge Apps and Networks. So these are going to be more around the micro-segmentation, the Zero Trust network access capabilities, the monitoring that I mentioned earlier. And then there's Zero Trust Edge Ultra. So this is all of the technology, all these capabilities in a single package. So basically the superset of the 2 other packages that I just mentioned. So in closing, just want to highlight the breadth of the capabilities, the comprehensive nature of the feature set of Zero Trust Edge, covering data, apps, network devices, and your users, of course. The core principles, design principles for mid-sized enterprises to help cut complexity, reduce that cyber risk with a very effective zero trust security controls, improve your user performance. And again, the affordability is key. The ability to actually do all of this in a cost that aligns and makes sense with mid-sized enterprise budgets. It's a key part of the value proposition of ZTEdge. So please go ahead and keep the conversation going with us. Email us. You see the email address there, or give us a call. And I mentioned a few times throughout the presentation our website, so please go there. Watch some recorded demos. You can sign up for a live demo. Again, we'd love to talk to you more about your specific requirements and how ZTEdge might be a fit. So with that, I'll go ahead and close out. I want to thank you for your time and attention today. Stay well.